Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 431, Reversing the Charges. The episode begins with Ash and Pikachu admiring Ash's new Battle Frontier symbol that he won against Tucker last episode in the Battle Dome, the Tactics symbol. And after he admired it for a little while and let the light from the sun reflect off of it, which it did extremely well, he placed it back into his symbol case with his other two symbols to make sure nothing bad would happen to it. Brock had been watching Ash do this, and he was admiring Ash's symbol as well. As for Max, he was sitting nearby, looking at his Pokénav while relaxing on the grass, trying to find out where the next destination would be located. And after some time, he informed Ash and Brock that he had found out from his Pokénav the next Battle Frontier facility was known as the Battle Pike, and it was close by to Fuchsia City. Upon hearing this, Ash stood up and got extremely excited, saying that they had to head there right away, because he wanted to participate in his next Battle Frontier battle as soon as possible. May wasn't paying attention to Ash's sudden declaration whatsoever, though, and she didn't even care where they were going next. She was too busy holding the Pokemon egg that she got, and she was polishing it, remembering the exact moment she got it from Nicolette at the farm of hers, at the egg farm specifically. May was extremely excited that her egg could potentially hatch soon, wondering what Pokemon would arrive, so she just couldn't take her eyes off it. It wasn't just her who couldn't take her eyes off it, though. Ash's Phanpy, who Ash had sent out for a little breather, was really excited by it as well, and started to rub the egg with its long nose. When Max walked over to May, along with Brock and Ash, and spotted Phanpy being interested in this egg, he asked Ash if Phanpy had hatched from an egg, and Ash nodded. So basically, since Phanpy had hatched from an egg, it was intrigued by another egg, basically. May then stood up and exclaimed how she just simply couldn't wait for her egg to start hatching. She just couldn't withstand the wait anymore. Although Ash suggested that if May wanted to take her mind off of the excitement, then they should probably just get fucking going already. And Max, Brock, and even May agreed, as May put the egg back into its little incubator container, since she had taken it out to rub it. So with that, Ash and the gang start to walk out of the little forest clearing that they were resting in, with Phanpy following, running behind them. After a little bit of walking, the area started to rumble, and the sky started to form some dark clouds. And May was the first one to notice them, gathering around a nearby mountain, worried that some thunder and lightning could show up. Just then, thunder was heard, even louder than the first time that they heard it, and soon enough, lightning started shooting out of the clouds too. Ash and the gang knew that the storm was only going to get worse, so Ash suggested that they find some shelter, and Brock, May, and Max agreed. And after some time, Ash and the gang arrived at a forest clearing, where Max noticed a group of grass-type Pokemon lying unconscious on the ground, specifically two Blossom, a Nuzleaf, and a Seedot. They were injured as fuck, and Max wondered what could have caused all these injuries when suddenly Ash and the gang heard what caused these injuries. A loud Pokemon cry, coming from a group of bushes. So Ash and the gang ran towards these bushes and entered the clearing on the other side of them, finding the Pokemon that had been crying out. There was actually two Pokemon, an Elekid and an Exeggutor, and the Elekid was the one causing trouble since Exeggutor was badly beaten, and it was a grass type, so presumably Elekid was the culprit for the other grass type Pokemon too. May was intrigued upon seeing an Elekid, so she used her Pokedex to get some information on it, and the Pokedex explained that Elekid was the pre-evolved form of Electabuzz, and talked about Elekid's different attacks as well. May could actually see Elekid attack in person though, as Elekid decided to use one of its attacks on the Exeggutor, spinning around its arms to generate electricity, having to spin them at high speed to do this. And utilizing this electricity, once it had enough charged up, Elekid fired off an electric attack at Exeggutor, enough to launch it backward. Exeggutor managed to get back up, but was unable to attack because Elekid refused to let Exeggutor do anything, as it uncontrollably charged up yet another Thunderbolt, desperate to knock Exeggutor out. And sure enough, this Thunderbolt sent Exeggutor smashing into a tree and knocked it out cold. Ash had been observing this beating that Exeggutor was taking, and he was not happy with it, because, Ash being Ash, he cared about Pokemon that weren't even his own. Rushed in front of Exeggutor to prevent Elekid from attacking it while it was already knocked out, and demanded that Elekid stop attacking. Ash's demands only angered Elekid, though, as it decided to charge up some more electricity to use another Thunderbolt to attack Ash. Ash called on Pikachu to battle Elekid, and the battle began with Elekid launching a Thunderbolt, with Pikachu managing to dodge before the attack actually hit him. And Pikachu followed up with an Iron Tail, which Elekid dodges, and then Elekid fired off another Thunderbolt, which this time hit Pikachu, shocking him and sending him flying back, knocking him down. May, Brock, and Max were worried for Pikachu and angry at Elekid for knocking out some innocent grass Pokemon. Thankfully, though, Pikachu was able to get back up after Ash encouraged it, and Ash followed up by telling Pikachu to use a Volt Tackle. Pikachu obliged, rushing towards Elekid, but since Pikachu hadn't mastered the attack failed, which allowed Elekid to tackle Pikachu and send it flying back once again. This frustrated Ash and the gang, but Elekid was pleased, as it saw a chance to attack while Pikachu was down, and decided to try and end the battle with a super powerful Thunder Punch. And Elekid jumped towards Pikachu with this attack, but the Thunder Punch ended up being blocked as Phanpy jumped in to protect Pikachu, with Phanpy being able to stop the attack since it was a ground type, which meant that electric attacks didn't affect it. Ash realized Phanpy would be his best choice against Elekid, and told Phanpy to take over the battle using a rollout, and Phanpy obliged, rolling towards Elekid at a high speed, although Elekid was able to dodge and use a Thunderbolt. But this Thunderbolt was just deflected by Phanpy, and Phanpy was able to hit Elekid, so this sent Elekid flying back. This only angers Elekid even more, and as a result, Elekid decides to fire off Thunderbolts all over the goddamn place. With the Thunderbolts only being more powerful, the more angrier Elekid got. The Thunderbolts simply just hit right behind Ash and the gang, although the force of the Thunderbolts hitting the ground, caused Ash and the gang to fall forward, and when May tried to duck for cover by a tree, she ended up dropping her egg, unfortunately, and it starts to roll along the ground. May immediately leaps up from taking cover and tries to grab her egg, but Elkid charged up another thunderbolt right towards May, although Max, being a hero, jumped in front of May to save her from being hit, although Max, of course, got hit in the process, although he was pretty okay. Unfortunately, though, Max's protection was in vain because May couldn't even grab a hold of her egg, because Elkid's continuous thunderbolts caused a tree to get knocked down, along with several others, and this tree blocked May's way toward the egg. And to make matters worse, the vibration of the tree hitting the ground caused the egg to be sent flying straight in between Elkid's horns, which as a result made Elkid even more angry as it fired off a huge thunderbolt, which shocks the whole surrounding area, knocks down several trees and other parts of the terrain, and Ash and the gang were only able to see all this damage when the blinding light from the thunderbolt ceased. At first, Ash was most concerned with how a very small Pokemon like Elkid could cause as much damage to the surrounding area as it did, but then he realized and pointed out to May that Elkid was now gone. May was extremely worried about this because she knew that her egg was caught between Elkid's horns, so that meant that if Elkid was gone, her egg was gone too. Ash had figured this out and suggested that he and the gang go find Elkid before it got away fully and they would never get the egg again. May, Max, and Brock, especially May, agreed, and they all ran off in an attempt to find Elkid to get May's egg back. Not far off, Elkid was walking through the woods, trying desperately to remove the egg in its incubator from between its horns, and unable to do so, it started to get more and more angry. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they were walking through the same woods as well. And they were wondering where the fuck Ash and the gang could possibly be, because, if they were spying on Ash and the gang, their lives were fucking miserable. As they were wondering this, though, Meowth and Mime Jr., who had been running ahead of Jesse and James, came across a beaten and bruised Scyther on the ground in front of them. Meowth wondered what the fuck could have happened to it. So Meowth decided to just ask the injured Scyther what happened to it, and Scyther proceeded to explain to Meowth, while Jesse, James, and Mime Jr. all crowd around it. James, knowing that Meowth could translate Pokemon to human, asked what Scyther just said, and Meowth explained that according to the Scyther, a wild Elkid had been going around the woods attacking Pokemon with his powerful electric attacks, and just then, Meowth spots some more knocked out grass types as well, some more Blossom, Seedot, and Nuzleaf. Scyther also adds that the Elkid was more than just powerful, it was fucking sadistic, because it simply just attacked grass Pokemon for the fun of it. Hearing this, Jessie claimed that Elkid sounded like just her kind of Pokemon, because of how sadistic it was, and James and Meowth agreed, so the three of them started to plot about how they could potentially capture the Elkid and use it to their advantage, with Meowth suggesting that maybe they could use Elkid's power to not only, have Elkid, but use it to capture Pikachu too, and give both Elkid and Pikachu to Giovanni as a present to get a promotion. As Team Rocket cheered, with Wobbuffet at this, Elkid then emerged from a pile of bushes nearby, while it continued to try and get the egg case free from its horns. It was getting progressively angrier, but then it got super happy when it actually managed to get the egg case out from its horns, and as a result, it was distracted, so Jessie suggested that now it was Team Rocket's chance to capture Elkid. However, Elkid heard Jessie say this, and immediately viewed Team Rocket as a threat, and angrily charged up another Thunderbolt, shocking Team Rocket and sending them blasting off. However, James panicked as he realized that Mime Jr. was getting blasted off in the opposite direction, because of the sheer force of Elkid's attack. Meanwhile, back with action again. They were very busily running along across the woods, trying to find Elkid with May's egg, since May was extremely worried about her egg. They hadn't been having much luck looking down the straight path, so Brock suggested they turn left, and they did. We then cut back to Team Rocket, who was now back on the ground in another part of the forest, busy looking for Mime Jr., shouting its name loudly, but without much success, which worried James even more than he was before. He really wanted Mime Jr. back. Suddenly, though, Meowth was the first one to spot none other than May's egg inside the incubator, since Elkid had abandoned it after it managed to get it out of its horns. Jessie immediately got intrigued upon seeing the egg, not recognizing it as May's, and wondering if it would hatch into something good that they could use and put on their team, or give to Giovanni. James wasn't concerned with the egg whatsoever, though, since he was too worried about his Mime Jr., and he yelled at Jessie at how she could focus on a goddamn egg as opposed to Mime Jr. at a time like this, and stating that there was no way a fucking Pokemon egg could be of use to them in any way anyways. Back with Ash and the gang, May was worrying over her egg even more now as time went by, and she hoped that it was alright, and Brock reassured her, saying that it wouldn't be long before they found her egg, and he was sure it would be okay. Just then, Max notices Mime Jr. lying unconscious on the ground. Of course, Ash and the gang had come across it before Team Rocket. Anyways, Ash and the gang very quickly ran over to Mime Jr. and immediately noted that Mime Jr. was not lying down because it was sleeping. It was lying down because it was injured, and Pikachu desperately tried to wake it up, but to no avail. May wondered if this Mime Jr. was the same one that belonged to Team Rocket, and she was right. Speaking of Team Rocket, we then cut back to them, and we see that they had decided to rest on a tree stump, super tired after struggling to find Mime Jr. again. And James was fucking depressed as hell. He could barely even move because he was so depressed. James only got even more depressed, as well as angry, when Jessie talked about how great it would be if they could capture Elkid and use its thunder attack, and basically make it a great member to Team Rocket. James got even more angry, literally starting to emit a purple aura, when Meowth remarked that even if they didn't find Mime Jr., they could make up for it as well, by not only catching Elkid, but waiting for the egg to hatch and utilizing that Pokemon. And James screamed at Jessie and Meowth in anger for being able to, one, not be concerned about Mime Jr. at a time like this, and two, think about replacing his lovely Mime Jr. Anyways, back with Ash and the gang. They all crowded around Mime Jr. as Brock put it on a little cloth in his backpack and treated it with some of his medicine. Thankfully, this medicine helped Mime Jr. wake up and recover. It immediately wondered where it was and where James was, but it soon didn't care about this and instead took more interest in Ash's Phanpy as it tried to mimic its movements and played around with it, taking a liking to Ash's Phanpy. Anyways, Ash and the gang decided to continue to search again for May's egg, walking throughout the forest, with Mime Jr. tagging along happily beside Fampy. After a little bit longer of walking, they actually came across Elekid again, who suddenly jumped out of a pile of bushes in front of them, its ears already charging with electrical energy, as it released some in the bushes it just came out of, which confirmed that it was angry to see Ash and the gang, obviously. Although, Brock was the first one to notice that all that could be seen out of Elekid's ears was electricity. It didn't have May's egg between its ears anymore. May demanded to know where the fuck her egg was and what Elekid had done with it, but Elekid wasn't willing to answer because it still hated Ash and the gang, and it simply charged up another Thunderbolt. So, Ash decided to make it a 2-on-1 battle, and sent in both Pikachu and Fampy to battle it at the same time. Elekid started the battle with the Thunderbolt that it was charging up, followed by a Thunder Punch as well. But Pikachu and Fampy simply jump out of the way to dodge, and Elekid tries to charge up yet another Thunder Punch, so Ash quickly tells Fampy to use a rollout, per Brock's suggestion, as Brock reminded him that Fampy's ground moves would be great against electric types. So Fampy charged towards Elekid with rollout, but Elekid dodged the attack by jumping out of the way, and used another Thunderbolt, and this hit Fampy hard, causing Fampy to get knocked back, hitting the ground right in front of Ash, May, Max, and Brock. Even with Fampy down, Elekid continued to unleash a massive barrage of electric attacks, and the power of all these electric attacks increased until eventually the power was enough to electrocute the entire surrounding area and cause a huge explosion. When the smoke and dust from the explosion cleared, Ash, May, Max, and Brock find that all the trees in the ground had been ripped up and utterly destroyed, and also Elekid had disappeared yet again, leaving May stressed out that she wasn't able to find out anything about her egg. Meanwhile, back with Team Rocket, they were now back to searching for Mime Jr. because, James got too angry with them just sitting around. But unfortunately, they weren't having any luck finding Mime Jr., much to James' dismay, because he was crying out for Mime Jr.'s name as loud as he fucking could, and there was just nothing. Just then, though, Team Rocket was startled as they saw a little bit of electricity coming from a nearby bush, and immediately after this, Elekid came out of the bush, right in front of them. Team Rocket were pretty shocked, but James wasn't scared, really, by Elekid, even as it started to charge up yet another attack. He was too determined to simply walk past it, so that he could get closer to hopefully finding his Mime Jr. But as James tried to walk past Elekid, Jesse restrained him, warning him not to get close to Elekid. This just made James even angrier, though, as he now wanted revenge on Elekid, remarking how it was because of Elekid that his Mime Jr. that he loved so much was gone. So it got to the point where Meowth had to restrain James too. Elekid was already disturbed, though. It was too late, so he used another Thunder Punch on Team Rocket, sending them blasting off again. They immediately landed, though, in a different location, although still in the forest. Immediately after landing, although Team Rocket were tired as fuck and exhausted as fuck due to being shocked 2 times in a row, due to James's encouragement, they all continued their search for Mime Jr. Eventually, they came across a Seedot, which Meowth tried to talk to try to learn more about Elekid's powers and possible locations where Elekid could be, since Meowth had the idea that maybe they could use Elekid to lead them to Mime Jr. Although maybe they could just spy on it from afar or some shit, so that they could just follow it instead of having to risk upsetting it again. Either way, James was fired up to get back Mime Jr. and get revenge on that goddamn cunt Elekid, and he was so fired up that, much to Jesse and Meowth's annoyance, the fire was literally spouting out of James's eyes and ears. Back with Ash and the gang, they were still searching for May's egg in another location in the forest, obviously, with May worrying more than ever, and Mime Jr. imitating Fampy as they walked. And the storm clouds were still brewing. Max and Ash were a bit worried, exclaiming that with Elekid around, it would be even more difficult to find the egg due to Elekid constantly interrupting with its amazing power. Suddenly, Brock then clicked his fingers in excitement as he realized where all of Elekid's power could be coming from, stating that it was possible that Elekid could be suffering from the after effects of an electric Pokemon being sick, much like when Ash's Pikachu came down with sickness when Ash and Pikachu first arrived in Hoenn. And we see a flashback of this as Ash narrates everything that happened, and Brock helps him recite, since Ash had told Brock the story, because, Brock wasn't there in person when Ash first arrived in Hoenn, but yeah, you remember during the first episode when Pikachu was sick with electricity and all that, and Birch tried to help him, May and just May was there, it was just May, Birch, and Ash, and then Team Rocket tried to steal Pikachu, yada yada yada, yeah, all that. But yeah, basically, Brock knew that Elekid could have likely gotten angry because it was sick, much like how Pikachu got angry when it was sick, when it was overloaded with electricity. And since Elekid was overloaded with electricity, it was likely sick, and it being angry could be why it was attacking random wild Pokemon, because it was sick. I hope that makes sense. Max didn't deny that Elekid's power boost could have definitely been partially caused by it being sick, but he also pointed to the storm clouds, which had now situated above a nearby mountain, and wondered if the storm had anything to do with Elekid's power boost as well. Brock turned his attention to the mountain and saw the clouds agreeing, saying that their next order of business was to help out Elekid, and help it basically not become sick anymore, and not become overcharged with electricity anymore. And the only way that they could help Elekid not get overcharged by electricity, which was what was essentially causing its sickness, was to defeat Elekid, because according to Brock, that may have been able to lower Elekid's electricity levels if it was weakened. And Brock stated that if they could defeat Elekid, then they could search for May's egg in peace, not having to worry about Elekid's power anymore. In order to defeat Elekid, Brock proposed that they take Pikachu into the center below the clouds of the storm, so that lightning could strike down on Pikachu, so Pikachu could essentially get a massive power boost from the storm. And as Ash and the gang watched some lightning strike some nearby rocks coming from the clouds, Brock elaborated that if Pikachu got struck by the same overpowering thunderbolt that Elekid did, but to a bit of a lesser amount, then maybe it would have enough electricity to basically get Elekid's attention. Ash knew about the sheer power of the storm after seeing the lightning, though, and worried about Pikachu. Max and May were worried about Pikachu potentially becoming sick too, but Pikachu simply insisted that it wanted to help out. So with that, it was decided Pikachu would get struck by lightning. So Ash and the gang proceeded to go to a rock just below the storm clouds, and Pikachu prepared itself to get struck while standing on the rock. Ash and the gang stood behind some other rocks as a bolt of lightning suddenly erupted down onto the ground, although it only hit the ground, not Pikachu. Just then, though, a second lightning bolt from the sky hit Pikachu. And as a result, Pikachu turned a shade of blue from the sheer power of the raw electricity, and once the lightning bolt had stopped, Pikachu had absorbed all of it and was still standing, completely uninjured thankfully, but full of power, completely charged to its maximum capacity of electricity. Ash congratulated Pikachu for having stood up to the storm, and Pikachu responded by punching the air with his fist, full of energy and power, ready to unleash it. Luckily for Pikachu, it would be able to unleash this power on Elekid, as Elekid suddenly jumped out of the nearby bushes, just behind the rocks where Ash and the gang were, and stared at Pikachu, having been drawn to it, just as everyone expected. Ash told Pikachu that it was now or never, and it was entirely up to him to deal with Elekid, and Pikachu showed a look of determination, although Brock warned Ash to not blow his one chance to attack Elekid, and also told him to watch out for Elekid's Thunderbolt and Thunder Punch, as they were very strong, and could rival Pikachu, even as it was charged up as well. Ash knew this, and confirmed that he understood it, before ordering Pikachu to use a Thunderbolt, while May decided to hold Mime Jr. to prevent it from being hit by any of the stray attacks. Unfortunately, Elekid dodged the attack and used a Thunder Punch, aiming for Pikachu, but it ended up just using it on the rock behind Pikachu, as Pikachu dodged and jumped out of the way. Ash then ordered Pikachu to use another Thunderbolt on Elekid, but suddenly the battle was stopped by a loud rumbling coming from nearby, and this basically distracted everyone and prevented even the Elekid from attacking, since they tried to discover what was making the sound. Soon enough, they did discover what was making the sound, as a huge mech shaped like a golem with a huge red R on it showed up, coming from the distance, stomping towards everyone. The mech then suddenly stopped as Team Rocket appeared out of the mech's head and did their motto. And as the motto ended, Mime Jr. jumped up and lands on May's head as it recited its piece in the motto. Because of this, James was obviously shocked to find out that Mime Jr. was with Ash and the gang, and on May's head no less, and May also spotted that James was currently holding her egg. Just as Jessie was about to get the mech to attack, James screamed at Jessie to stop, and jumped out of the mech onto the ground, and ran up to May, as May ran up to him, and James and May immediately made an agreement to swap, since either of them had no use for what they currently had. James got back Mime Jr. from May, while May got back her egg from James. And now that this exchange was done, James jumped back into the mech, very happy that he finally got back Mime Jr. as he hugged it. And May was immensely happy to have her egg back, hugging it tight. Now that Mime Jr. was safe, James assured Jessie that she could attack all she wanted now, and she did, firing out several nets to try and capture Pikachu and Elekid, although Pikachu and Elekid both jumped to dodge the nets. So, a frustrated Jessie instead just ran towards Pikachu and Elekid with the Golem mech, going to capture Elekid and Pikachu in the mech's arms, although Ash tells Pikachu to stop the mech with a Thunderbolt, but the attack does absolutely nothing to the mech, as Team Rocket laughed, bragging that their mech was electric-proof, and that meant Pikachu and Elekid were useless against it. Just then, though, Phanpy jumped forward and nodded at Ash, and Ash nodded back, realizing that he could use Phanpy's ground power to win the battle, as he told Phanpy to attack with a tackle. Unfortunately for Phanpy, though, the armor of the mech proved too much for such a small Pokemon to handle, and to make matters worse for Phanpy, Jessie and Meowth then pressed buttons inside the mech, causing several bombs in the shape of rocks to launch out from the mech, but the rocks were deflected by Phanpy using a combination of rollout and defense curl to protect itself and attack the bombs at the same time, and this caused the bombs to just fizzle out and not explode. Phanpy then starts to circle the Golem mech per Ash's orders, gaining more and more power with its rollout as it continued to use it, rolling and rolling and rolling around the Golem mech. Basically, this was meant to distract Team Rocket. Team Rocket certainly were distracted, trying to find a way to stomp on Phanpy, but Phanpy was too fast. Ash was excited that his distraction was working, but Brock reminded Ash the entire point of the distraction, which was so that Ash and Pikachu could focus on Elekid, and Ash realized this and told Pikachu to use Iron Tail on Elekid, and Pikachu did so, smashing straight into Elekid's head, although Elekid responded by using a Thunder Punch, which Pikachu was barely able to jump to dodge. Pikachu tries to hit Elekid with one more Iron Tail, but this time Elekid was prepared for the attack and blocked it as best it could by catching it with its hand, making Ash and the gang worried that they actually wouldn't be able to stop Elekid. Ash and the gang then got even more worried because Team Rocket was able to actually deal with Phanpy, with Meowth having the Golem mech, which he called the Golem Mark II, punch Phanpy away, utilizing one of the mech's arms. With Phanpy out of the way, Team Rocket excitedly set their sights on what they really wanted, Elekid and Pikachu. Elekid noticed this, however, and turned its attention away from Pikachu and toward Team Rocket as it charged up another one of its high-powered electric attacks by spinning its arms around at a rapid pace. Ash, seeing that Elekid had put the fight with Pikachu aside so that it could focus on dealing with its hatred for Team Rocket, Ash told Pikachu to do the same and team up with Elekid with its own thunder as well, so the two Pokemon could launch a double Thunderbolt attack. Elekid knew that defeating Team Rocket was top priority, so it even let Pikachu climb onto its back so they could unleash a combined Thunderbolt attack, like not just two separate ones, a huge combined one. Although Team Rocket just laughed, as Meowth pointed out that the Golem mech was still electric-proof, so Pikachu and Elekid's attacks were useless. However, what Team Rocket didn't notice for a while was that the electricity was filling up the mech's electricity storage gauge. Basically, the mech was resistant to electricity, but to a point, it could become overloaded. So Pikachu and Elekid kept up their efforts, as Ash and the gang watched intently, hoping that something would happen. Jessie saw that the mech's electricity levels were becoming a bit overloaded, but she wasn't worried, and nor was James or Meowth, or Mime Jr., who simply saluted, excited to be back with Team Rocket. Ash told Pikachu to use its full power, and Pikachu's Thunderbolt becomes stronger than ever, and Elekid's does too, and eventually, Pikachu and Elekid's attacks become too much for the mech's electrical storage unit to handle, and the mech starts to malfunction, emitting a whole bunch of smoke as the mech fell to the ground, steaming, about to explode. It seemed as though Pikachu and Elekid had used so much electric energy that it had been brought up back to the storm, and the storm became attracted to this type of electricity from Pikachu and Elekid and sucked out the excess electricity from them as well. You know, like it didn't suck out their base electricity, like they weren't dying or anything, but it sucked out the electricity that were making them sick. And, well, Pikachu wasn't sick, but Elekid was sick, and now it was better. Yay! Unfortunately, before Ash and the gang could celebrate the fact that Elekid was back to normal, much to Ash and the gang's surprise, Meowth was able to fiddle with some buttons inside the Golem mech, and he managed to reboot it, and Team Rocket declared that things weren't finished yet. Ash told Phanpy to attack the mech and protect Pikachu and Elekid, since the Golem mech had immediately extended a hand in an attempt to capture Elekid and Pikachu again. Phanpy decided to attack specifically with a rollout, but unfortunately the rollout failed, since the mech had seen Phanpy coming and used another one of its arms to punch Phanpy, stopping the rollout and sending it flying back. However, the force of the punch caused Phanpy to experience quite a bit of pain. So much pain to the point where it realized that if it evolved, then it could gain enough power to fight back against Team Rocket. And sure enough, Phanpy started to glow white, with Brock being the first one to realize what was happening, declaring that Phanpy was evolving. And Brock was proved right when the bright white light cleared and Phanpy officially evolved into Donphan, as May checked out Donphan on her Pokédex to learn more about it, even though they had just found a Donphan like 30-ish episodes ago by this point. Ash and the gang were very shocked, along with Pikachu, to see Phanpy actually evolve, but they were also glad, with Ash congratulating Donphan on the evolution and admiring it for a bit, as Donphan rolled towards Team Rocket one last time with a super high-powered rollout, sending their mech toppling over, leaving May to become amazed at Donphan's power, as Donphan opens up its mouth and fires off a super powerful Hyper Beam attack on the mech that was on the ground, and as a result, the Hyper Beam rips right through the mech, causing it to actually explode, and to send Team Rocket blasting off for the last time today. With Team Rocket now gone, Ash and the gang were able to celebrate the fact that Elekid was all healed and had all of its excess and overbearing power taken out of it. So that also meant that it was kinder and no longer trying to hurt everyone. So with that, Elekid acknowledged Pikachu's strength and in a way apologized to everyone for attacking everything, and the episode ends with Ash and the gang saying goodbye to Elekid, and Donphan, and especially Pikachu, say goodbye to it as well, with Ash and the gang continuing on their journey towards the Battle Pike. I can't believe Phanpy actually evolved, bro. That's fucking sick. He's not even a Pokemon from this anime. He's from the Johto arc. Nice.